Hi Taurus, welcome to your mid-August 2019 general tarot reading. It's Raina here. Shuffling the cards. I want to say that there's going to be a full moon at this time in the middle of the month, and it's going to be on the 15th at 22 degrees of Aquarius. And for you, Aquarius is the 10th house of career. So this can be kind of a pinnacle. This can be like perhaps some kind of a promotion, or for some people, you may be transitioning into a new type of career, and that could be what's going on for you. So it depends on who you are. So let's see what this says here. The heart of the matter is the Seven of Wands, and this is kind of like pushing back on criticism, on any kind of the word that came into my mind is bullying or unfair treatment, maybe unfair attacks that are being leveled against you. And this would I think that this specifically, I see a lot of cards that to me connect with work. You can always apply it to other areas of your life. If this is in a personal relationship, it can be that you now understand how somebody has been abusing you. In other words, I mean, there's abuse that's obvious, but sometimes abuse comes with more subtlety in the form of put downs. And then if you get upset, the person says, gosh, you're so sensitive. You're so insecure. But you know that you're being humiliated or demeaned, okay? The person can say things about you, something that's your performance. So that's why I typically think of the workplace, because it's performance-based, but it can be in personal relationships. And it doesn't have to be just with a significant other. This can be with a friend or a family member for sure. With a family member, for instance, if you feel that you're never good enough, that nothing you do, and I'm talking about for them, when you do things for them, and they're always asking for more, and they're always accusing you of being selfish, that's the kind of thing that can really get into your head and create this sense of questioning yourself. Am I being selfish? Maybe I'm not doing enough? And one of the things I would say about the Seven of Pentacles, the Seven of Wands, is that if you find yourself defensive in a relationship, there is a good chance that that is a toxic relationship. Now, this is not going to be across the board, because there are some people who do take offense too easily because of their own emotional problems. I'm speaking about a person who is relatively well balanced, who finds themselves in, maybe it's just one relationship, and every other relationship is pretty good, but one person keeps pushing your buttons in that way, and they know how to push your buttons. That's the thing, because they can see you react. And even if you're not getting angry, you might be getting kind of like quiet. And actually, to me, the Seven of Wands, because remember, Wands is fire energy. So this to me is that you're not taking it anymore. And you're going to answer their accusations instead of kind of like keeping it to yourself or swallowing it. In the past position, we have the Magician card. This is a card of self-empowerment and resourcefulness. This can come about when somebody decides to take charge of their life, this is the card that is numbered 1. So 1 is the number, the vibration of the self. Like in astrology, the first house represents the self. Looking out for number 1. That is important. That is an important thing to do, because this is our path. We're not supposed to be meddling in other people's lives, but we have to meddle in our own life and take charge of our own life. And so you, in whatever way this has happened for you, have stepped into your own power. Uranus has gone into your sign, Taurus. So that is going to increase your urge for independence and freedom. Okay. And this is, I think at this moment, Uranus is retrograding. I think it's about 5 degrees of Taurus or something like that. So it's going backwards. I might be mistaken, something in the early degrees. So if you're like a later degree Taurus, you might not feel it quite yet, but as the years increase, and I think this transit will be about 7 years or so, you will, as it nears your degree of sun or rising, you will likely feel a sense of urgency to just kind of break free. And it may come in a very sudden sort of way, because Uranus is known for that. But already in your life, you're experiencing this desire for freedom and autonomy. I think that's what the Magician card represents. And to me, autonomy means that we are self-reliant, that we're operating as individuals instead of having to depend on somebody else for things. The Magician card is also about resourcefulness, doing what you can with what you have where you are, rather than saying, I can't. Like, for instance, I remember when I was in my 30s, I went back to college, but I only took one course the first semester, because I really didn't have plans to get a degree. I just wanted to, stick my toe in after having dropped out in my late teens. So I wanted to just do it. I didn't have any goals. And then doing that empowered me to keep going, and I eventually got my degree. But it starts with one step. And, wherever you are, the Magician is like, you have what it takes to do what you can in this moment. And even if you're in a bad relationship, like the 7 of Wands, if you're in a bad relationship where you're with somebody who's really putting you down, and maybe you're at home with the kids and you don't even have a financial source of income, I believe that even in that situation, you are starting to understand the necessity of what the Magician card represents. And that is all that it takes. All that it takes is one little sliver of light. The problem is when people don't even entertain a notion, when they're just completely shutting their mind against any possibility of something. But once you can at least play around with an idea, that is going to be the first step that takes you on your path to freedom, independence. The higher message is the 3 of Pentacles. This can be, sometimes this card is actually connected to having a family, or, conceiving, well, I don't know if it's about conceiving children, but it's like this sense of, Pentacles can be the physical body, and we have 3, so 1 + 1 = 3. But this is a card of teamwork and, collaboration and relationships, like personal relationships that have a very firm foundation. This is the Architect's card. So it's about, an architect is building from the ground up, and the architect also has a blueprint. So when you are thinking about your life, whether it's, and actually the other thing too is the holistic angle of things is that, you know, the number 3, that is the number of that card, is, we have like the Trinity, and we have these themes of the number 3, but it's like body, mind, and spirit, for instance. We have to acknowledge that we're not just one thing. And Taurus, being an earth sign, sometimes has the earth element really, or, you know, part of it really like well covered. But you are, you're also somebody that has emotions. And I would say with the, I don't know, you know, it's funny because I'm saying, okay, is the mind the emotions or is the spirit the emotions? Because obviously the mind might seem like it's apart from emotions. But when I think of the mind, I think of mental health. So physical health and well-being, mental health, and then spiritual well-being. And we have to have everything. We can't just, you know, you can't work at a job just because it pays well if there's a lot of toxic behavior surrounding you. Or, you know, if you have to watch your back, you know, I could see that with the 7 of Wands too, of like feeling under attack, feeling under siege. And actually, you know, the 3 of Pentacles is also a card of teamwork. So as the higher message, it's saying this is what a healthy office is like. This is what it's supposed to be like. I think sometimes people, you know, naturally assume, well, if there's a dog-eat-dog environment, that's just how it is because everybody's trying to, you know, keep their job. And, you know, while that may be literally true, it's also a sign of low consciousness because it's survival of the fittest, you know, survival of the, you know, scumbaggiest, the people that are willing to do the most underhanded stuff is really what it's more likely. And the thing is, it doesn't make it right just because people think that they have to survive and they got to do whatever it takes. That doesn't mean that it excuses their behavior. So there are places where people treat each other with respect. If you just shrug your shoulders and assume that everybody is just going to be like this, then that will be what you see and maybe what you attract. But if you say, no, I hold a vision for myself that is more humane, more elevated, where people have a higher consciousness, that they're not backstabbers. They really like, they don't believe it's like, I have to get ahead at your expense, but that we can all get ahead by helping one another. That's not naive to think like that. I think that that is expecting more out of people. And, you know, I think that that's okay. And same thing, you know, with your personal relationships, not settling for the bottom of the barrel, but saying, you know, I want a relationship that lasts. The only way I'm going to be able to have a relationship that lasts is if I am with somebody who honors me, because eventually I'm going to just like blow my stack and tell them everything that they've done for the last 15 years. Because I think sometimes Taurus, you, maybe because you're ruled by Venus, you don't want to rock the boat, and so you hold on to your anger, unless maybe you have a moon in Aries or Mars in Aries, or even Venus in Aries. You might be more, or any fire sign, you might be more open with your temper, if you will. But in most cases, it might build up, and then, you know, that's not good either. You should always have this sense of like you can express your anger to your partner, but without being out of control. What crosses you is the 5 of Cups. And this is a card of grieving the loss of something. So sometimes this is not necessarily you. For instance, let's say that you are with a person in a personal relationship and they have changed, their personality has changed over the years. Perhaps they're having emotional distress. Like, for instance, they lost somebody close to them, and that changed their personality, and they started treating you badly. Maybe they're drinking, and they have a drinking problem, and that is when they are abusive. And then when they're sober, they are repentant. They might not even remember what they did. They are very, polite to you. It's only under the influence that's when they act so nasty. And that may be what keeps you there, because you feel like it doesn't happen all the time, so I'm not going to, rock the boat or anything like that. But what you have to understand is that there still is a problem. When somebody is addicted to, who is engaging in substance abuse of any kind, they are not there for you. They're not there for their children. They may physically be in the room, but their mind has gone elsewhere, and their ugly behavior is impacting you adversely. And if you have children, it's not good for the children either. So in those types of situations, what you can do is you can go to a support group. You can go to Al-Anon or an equivalent type of group where you are not trying to change the other person, which you can't do, but you're trying to figure out your own strategies for coping, so that you can know how not to enable this person and make it easier for them to continue using. But by the same token, it can possibly speed up the process of them getting sober, because codependency actually a lot of times will prolong the addiction of somebody, because the other person is really like kind of covering for them and helping them, enabling them to continue. And not because they're bad people, or because they're weak, but because they want to keep everything together. They don't want everything to just, go up in flames. So the thing is that you have to be willing to, look at it from your perspective and not put it on somebody else. If this is a workplace situation, the Five of Cups can be disappointment that things aren't working out the way you would hope they are. But even if that's the case, you have to understand that the Magician card in the past position, to me, suggests that it's this very scenario that's helping you to come into your own. In Law of Attraction, Abraham Hicks talks about contrast. And contrast is something that what we could call negative occurrences. I mean, if we wanted to kind of like make it easier for people to understand, things that we don't want, that, kind of fly in the face of what we do want, that we push back against. But if we didn't have those things, we might be just content where we are, and we might not think that there's anything better out there. So when you get these dramatic instances of contrast, it kind of like spurs you to action so that you can do better and have better in your life. The advice is the Ace of Swords. This is about gaining a lot of clarity so that you can move forward. And really with the Ace of Swords, because swords connects with thought, for me this is more on your end with your own areas where you may be kind of like lying to yourself, telling yourself it's okay when it's really not. Also, I would say to really consider your path at the moment. If you're the kind of person who just kind of like floats on the waves of life and you just don't really think much about where you're going, you just kind of like surf the wave, being more deliberate, more intentional about your life requires that you get crystal clear on what it is you you want. And there are some people, there are a lot of people, maybe most of the people, I don't know. I don't know what the percentage is, but people that don't really believe that their life is their own to create or co-create. They think that they're just kind of here and things are just kind of happening. And it doesn't make people like that wrong. Life may give evidence of being out of control. You know, especially the more your childhood was crazy and chaotic, the more you may think like this. Because when you're a kid, you know, you're just kind of reacting to whatever is around you. And if the adults around you are acting like, you know, complete idiots or just like crazy, unpredictable, you know, and especially for a fixed sign like Taurus, this can be particularly traumatic because you really crave a lot of constancy. And so if you don't have that, it can be pretty upsetting, and it can lead in adulthood to being overly controlling and overly rigid, and a little bit too scheduled and a little bit too, and needing like guarantees too much. I don't know who I said this to in one of my videos, but a lot of times when I get private clients, you know, and they have a whole laundry list of things that they want answers to, which I don't answer yes or no questions, they will tend to be fixed signs because they're looking for guarantees in life. The less that you require that in your life, but at the same time, the more that you are seeing your life as, you know, like a lump of clay that you can shape, but at the same time not being attached to outcomes, I think the better off you're going to be, because you're going to lose some of those controlling traits, but at the same time you're going to gain more self-initiation, where you are taking the initiative. You're not waiting for somebody else where you can react to, because fixed signs are builders, and so they're taking what somebody else has done and then they are just you know, somebody else's idea, and they're working with it. And the more that you can realize that you can transcend that, because we're not just one modality, you know, you're not just, I'm sure I don't think I've ever done a chart for anybody who's just like totally fixed signs, you know what I mean? So you're going to have a combination of those things, and you don't have to be, but it might be the default way that you go through life because it feels safe. But with the Ace of Swords, it's about seeing how you can approach life in a much more intentional sort of a way, and clear-headed. And that can be a new beginning for you because you're able to do so. And because Swords relates to air energy, it could be that this full moon will bring things into greater clarity to you, because full moons can be times of revealing. The outcome is a 10 of Wands. This can be a card of like a lot of work on the horizon, which can be a good thing. Taurus is actually a very hardworking sign. It's just that you like to chill too. You don't just want to just slave away. So, you know, but it seems like, at least in the immediate future, that you're going to be doing a lot of work, and maybe that means that you're going to somehow be able to surmount this challenge. Maybe by defending yourself, you gain more credibility with your boss, and they have never seen this side of you, and they decide that you really have what it takes, and maybe you get the promotion, just like I said with the full moon in the 10th house. Who knows? But in any case, I hope that you enjoyed this, Taurus, and if you'd like a private reading, please check out my website, rainandmoonastrology.com. The link is below. Take care. Bye.